Hey, welcome everybody to Tom and James on this Friday edition. And James, it's going to be exciting. What are you doing? Are you eating on camera? This is great. Hey, listen, here, you ready for this? What?
You want to see what's in my mouth?
No, I don't want to see it.
Would that help? What are you trying to do, bro?
Here.
I got no shame.
Here, listen to this. You ready for this? We got a few things today. Russia is entered into a military deal with the Sudan for 25 years. If anybody ever studies Ezekiel 38, that should ring a bell. Okay, listen to this one. Cornell University offers person of color exemption for flu vaccine requirement. Did you hear about that? That is just... So I look, I go, okay, what's up with this flu? If the vaccine is so good, then why are you not giving it to black people, right? Right? I mean, why are they exempt from it? Cornell University. You can't make these things up.
It's ridiculous. Okay, we'll get on the Cornell thing in just a minute.
Okay, let me ask you.
Tell me about this Russia. Tell me about this Russia deal.
Okay, so here's the Russia thing. Let me pull that up for you. This is really, to me, this is quite fascinating. Okay, Russia to establish Navy base in Sudan for at least 25 years. This is coming out of Moscow. Russia has signed an agreement with Sudan to establish a Navy base in the African nation for at least a quarter century, part of Moscow's efforts to expand its global reach. The deal published Tuesday on the official portal of government records allows Russia to simultaneously keep up to 4 Navy ships, including nuclear-powered ones, in Port Sudan on the Red Sea. And then Russia will provide Sudan with weapons and military equipment, and the new agreement as part of Moscow's efforts to restore a regular naval presence in various parts of the globe. And the Russian military footprint withered after the 1991 Soviet collapse amid economic woes, military funding shortages, but President Putin has moved steadily to rebuild the nation's military might amid tensions with the West. And then it goes on to talk about how they've got their influence in Syria and in the Mediterranean and now in the south in Sudan. Isn't that rather interesting?
Okay, well, you can't make this stuff up.
No,
I mean, you really can't make this stuff up. And let me just go back and simply say this. Now, this is my first reaction because I'm just hearing the story right now. This is the first time I've heard it. I haven't done any analysis on it, haven't read it, haven't really looked much at the terms or whatever. But you know what my gut reaction is? The very first thing that comes to my mind, especially somebody who studies the word and kind of knows sort of the geopolitical ramifications of the whole thing. All of this is about Iran. I mean, think about this. What in the world kind of a benefit does Russia get as going to an agreement, some kind of a normalized agreement? Now, by the way, can I ask you this question? Because I don't know this off the top of my head. Do they have diplomatic relationships already established with Sudan, or is this a brand new thing?
I don't know. I'll have to ask David Tal about that.
I'm really gonna have to look into this to see if Russia and the Sudan has any kind of a diplomatic relationship. I'm guessing not. I'm guessing they are sort of not in the sense that they're at war or they're feuding or anything like that. But I'm guessing that the Sudan has never really been recognized as much of a chess piece in any of this. And my guess is, and I could be wrong, but my guess is this is Russia making a play on strengthening Iran's position for how Iran is standing against many of the other people that are coming into the Abraham Accords. It's my guess. I'm willing to bet that, because the debate over sovereign territory is a non-debate, okay? Legally, I don't think that they can even set up a naval base that's anywhere on the African coast. I'm almost willing to bet that. I'd have to go back and look at what the sovereign territory or the national territory space is, what those rules are in terms of the water on the coast. But I'm willing to guess that what this is all about is some sort of an agreement, formalized agreement being set into stone to make the Sudan's relationship with Israel more complicated so that Iran might be able to have some kind of a better standing with respect to how it positions itself against Israel. And I can guarantee you that Iran very quickly, sooner than later at some point, is going to end up attacking Israel, probably much sooner, because I think emboldened, especially by John Kerry coming in and doing the things that he's doing or saying that he's going to do, which, by the way, let me just simply say, Joe Biden is not the president-elect. I don't think he ever will be the president. He's not the president-elect. Never will be the president-elect. I think Donald Trump is still going to get elected or has been elected in office, but it's going to get all found out, and he's going to get the way I think this is going to happen, this lawsuit that's being filed in Texas, that was the big gun. That was the big gun. I think that lawsuit is going to get granted cert in the Supreme Court. It looks like it's already going in that direction because the Supreme Court responded by saying, okay, I want to hear all the amicus briefs filed by all the states. I want all the attorney generals to file away, and I hope they all file away. But I can almost guarantee you the fact that this is going to be heard in the Supreme Court. And when it does, I think all of the swing states' votes are going to get invalidated. And when they get invalidated, this is going to get voted for in the House, and the president of the United States will remain the president of the United States. I'm almost certain of that. But I think this is a play on Iran. I think this is some kind of a play on Iran. I think this has nothing to do with the Sudan. I think the Sudan is kind of a quiet piece in all of this, but it is very interesting. I mean, my initial thought is this is Russia garnering up a relationship with the Sudan so that they can control diplomatic ties between all of those nations that are seeking to make peace with Israel. That's what I think is happening. Yeah. But I mean, I could be wrong, but my initial reaction is this is a play really more to garner up Iran's position on the global front there.
Okay, so maybe you can answer this for our viewers. Why? I can show biblically how things are going to go. We know that. We've been told that. God says, I tell you then from the beginning. Russia, why does Russia care about Iran?
Russia cares about Iran because Russia already sees them as being a close ally. Yeah. Whether or not anybody really wants to admit it, Russia cares about Iran because Russia is infuriated by the relationship that's continuing to be accentuated between all of the Arab nations, which, by the way, have been their primary source of energy, right? OPEC is spitting in the face of Russia. China is as angry as all will get. There's all kinds of stuff going on with the UAE, with Saudi Arabia. The royal family right now is all but pretty much pooping all over Russia. Forgive me for creating that picture. So I think this is a thing where Russia's picking sides and saying, nope, Iran's going to be our friend. And by the way, Russia sees them as a potential ally even for energy sources. This is why this big land bridge debate has been such a big deal. When when our president decided to pull out of that particular area where the land bridge issue talks were. So I think that this is more of a Russia seeking to secure its own natural resources, securing more energy resources, more energy independence. By the way, this would also play into what's going on with Erdogan in Turkey, because Erdogan is saying, hey, we're independent. Everything is all good. We're already taking care of ourselves. And he is dying a slow death while he's drilling in the Mediterranean trying to find some kind of resource. So my guess is this is Russia seeking to embolden and strengthen Iran while becoming closer allies with them for the chase of natural resources. By the way, that plays into what we read about in Ezekiel chapter 38, because when all of these nations that are surrounding Israel attack Israel, they're attacking Israel for Israel's spoil. What's their spoil? Oh, yeah. Their spoil is going to be the natural resources that all of these guys are dying a slow death without.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to watch all of this shape up. The Arab communities as they are, you have the Abraham Accords, then obviously now this with Russia and Sudan. And we know that Russia and Iran and Turkey are going to get along, even though Turkey's always kind of been doing their own thing. But because of the energy problem alone, they're going to. they're going to come against Israel for everything that you just said. But the great thing is Ezekiel chapter 39, when these armies that come against Israel are destroyed, and they recognize that it is the Lord who has done this. That's going to be incredible.
Yeah, and in essence, it's all playing into God's overall plan, which is why I think it's just astounding. I mean, I'm shocked as I'm listening to this article that you're reading to me, and it happens to be one of the pieces of news I just didn't happen to catch. I don't know how old that article was. I would assume it just came out. It was yesterday. Wow. Week, yeah. Normally I pick up on those articles within at least 12 hours of the one. But what's interesting to me about that whole thing. Actually, I made
that one up. I typed that one myself.
I don't think so.
I found it on
but can I tell you, it is a perfect play. I mean, it really is. Because even if you remember, look, Iran yesterday, probably around the same time that Russia makes an announcement about what's going on with the Sudan, Iran makes a very emboldened statement basically saying we've made arrests in the murder of our nuclear scientist, right? And that's a whole other.
Oh yeah,
They're so mad about Mohsen. Let me just say that. But they're saying that they've got these people in custody, and they basically have implied that they're coming after Israel because they still hold Israel responsible for the assassination of this guy, which they probably were. But you get the idea.
Yeah. Definitely get the idea. Okay, now let me switch gears for a minute. I do want to come back to Gavin Newsom and Biden and the presidential race as it is still going, because I think you have some exciting things to share. But let me pull this up back to as article says, persons of color. Let me find it here. Cornell University offers person of color exemption for flu vaccine requirement. Students at Cornell University can use their status as person of color to be exempt from the university's flu vaccine requirement. Students who identify, here it is, as Black, Indigenous, or as person of color may have personal concerns about fulfilling the compact requirements based on historical injustices and current events, explains some Cornell sports. But it begs the question, doesn't that throw out, put more questions into a person's mind? If this vaccine is so wonderful, why are you exempting, you saying Black people don't need to take it and maybe even shouldn't take it?
Because they're racist.
It is.
You're darned if you do and you're darned if you don't, right?
Exactly.
Either
way.
It's ridiculous. If they're doing it because of some stupid, you're a victim and we need to fix your victim status, and it's crazy. It's absolute racism is what it is. Yeah. It's total racism. It's why in the world would a Black man be exempt? Let's just do this. Let's throw out the idea that the vaccine is healthy and that it's good. It doesn't have any DNA modifying properties. Let's just say that it doesn't have aborted fetal tissue in it, which it probably does. Forget all that. Let's just pretend it's a righteous vaccine that you can take. I don't believe it is, to be honest with you. I won't touch it. I'll use my colored person status to not take
you
it.
Can.
You say that right now. But let's assume that it is. Let's assume that it's a perfect vaccine. There's nothing wrong with it. Everything is great. All of that is perfect. You mean to tell me that this is a vaccine that can save the life of every single human being that takes it, but you are going to give people of color an option to walk away from it? What you're basically saying is their life is less valuable, and you don't want to have to waste the vaccine on them.
Yeah. So your narrative is, we love you so much you don't have to take it, but the reality of it is, we hate you so much we don't want you to take it.
Welcome to the...
What is this?
I'm sorry, bro. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. It's complete insanity. It is complete and total insanity. It's crazy.
Yes, it is. Okay, now there's a school, Montgomery, I think it's Montgomery, Maryland school district area, and near DC. I got to pull this up for you because it gives statistics on learning. And there's been a 500% decline. I'll find it here in a second. Here it is. Did you hear about this?
I heard this. Yeah, keep going. I know
Our
exactly.
schools have failed the test and bureaucrats have been exposed. The results have been disastrous since the county moved to distance learning. There has been an over 500% increase in the number of black junior high students failing mathematics, over 600% increase in the number of Hispanic students failing such tests. That's Montgomery County, Maryland. Which is a wealthy area. So you look at that, we know what's happening to schools. I had a question that came the other day, and I should have gotten this to you before today, but I didn't. But this person asked if you and I on this show could go over the statistics about the damage that has been done because of the lockdowns. And you mentioned before about the suicide rates going up, what's happening in marriages, what's obviously happening in schools. Right. It's just an absolute disaster. Business, a third of the businesses in New York City now, I believe, are closing, the small businesses. And you look at this, I don't have the stats on me. I think it's something that people need to hear, and I'd like to give that to them when we can. But you look at this, and you got some of them in your head. You have a lot to share on this.
I mean, listen, the 1,900% increase in suicidal ideation, 1,700% increase in the consumption of alcohol, roughly 1,100% increase in the use of drugs and drug abuse. There has been a substantial, I forgot the number, but I think it's well over the 1,000% decrease in people going into hospital for care for normal, regular, everyday things that people run into that actually turn into very dangerous things. For example, people that develop abscesses in their body for whatever reason won't go to a hospital because of the fear that's been created by the media. They say that roughly 80% of the diseases that people are dying from right now, this very moment, could have been avoided had it not been for the nonsense of the COVID, the COVID scares and the COVID ridiculousness that's actually happening. It is absolutely out of control. As of about 5 months ago, more people are dying from suicide under the age 35 than there are that are actually dying of COVID. There is a 0.00001% chance that somebody of tender age can actually give an adult the virus if they contain it. They are beginning to now come to the conclusion that the chance of you being able to carry this virus and have asymptomatic, let me just back up. If you are asymptomatic, meaning you're carrying the virus and you're completely asymptomatic, one of two things is happening. Number one, the viral load is so low that it literally has no effect. And in so doing, or in that particular case, when you carry it on to somebody else, they don't get it. They don't see it. In other words, they say that there's 2 days when a person is infected with this virus. I want to say roughly 2. I think is what they say. And I have to go back and look all these numbers up because I'm just doing off the top of my head where the virus is transmissible. And it's also very interesting to me when you think about the people that are getting these viruses, you're talking about 85%, folks. 85% of the people right now that are getting this virus are isolating themselves at home, putting on their masks, doing all the things that they say you're supposed to do, and they're getting this virus. This virus is damaging. How about this? 60% of the businesses that have been shut down, whether they have been shut down by the destruction of rioters that are coming in and burning the businesses down, or through COVID, 60% of those businesses are Black or minority owned. Now, you think about that for a second. The only exception to that rule with the shutdowns is in the area of the Valley. When you go over to like the Thousand Oaks area, in the area of the Valley, in that area, and actually I think almost virtually a good portion of Los Angeles, 75% of all the business owners are Jewish.
Yeah, that was the target.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Targeted Jewish businesses there. And then the thing with the 60% of the other businesses minority owned, that goes back to the persons of color don't have to take the vaccine. You look at the whole thing, you're going, wait a minute. The narrative is we care about persons of color, but the actions are, the things that are done are so racist, it's pretty unbelievable.
Well, these people are completely racist. The whole idea of reparations for slavery. People say, oh, well, slavery built this country. No, it didn't. You know what? Forgive me for saying something that might be controversial to people. It didn't. Okay, if you really want to talk about this, let's talk about the difference between the North and the South in the very, very beginning when we were, right after we had declared independence. First of all, the first anti-slavery movement that we know of that was really organized and super official and crazy was 6 years before the signing of the Declaration of Independence. That was the first one that we know of. Okay, let's take it a step further. How about we go a little aggressive and to say, well, we made tons and tons and tons of money off of slaves. No, we didn't. Slavery arguably destroyed our economy. And some of the best economists in the country know that. Now, there are some exceptions. Some people did get rich from slavery, right? Like Mr. Yale, he got rich from slavery and he took a bunch of that slave land and created Yale University, just so that you know. So maybe we ought to talk about reparations for them, but we'll just leave that be because they're the greatest of the indoctrinators. Let's just go back and talk about economics for just 1 second. You look at the difference between the North and the South. For every one industrialized building, for every one factory the South had, the North had 6 of them, and the North was free. Okay, look, you just go back and you look at some of those numbers. How about this? How about from 1861 to 1865, the GDP went from, I want to say something like 67 million, okay, to 2.72 billion. That would be the modern day equivalent of trillions of dollars. And that the majority of that GDP was centered around paying for the Civil War. Now, shall we just talk about the cost of the Civil War? If we want to talk about the cost of slavery in our country, if there was a cost of slavery in our country, how about we talk about the cost of the blood that was shed? How about the fact that we talk about 300,000 soldiers in the North? And that's a very rough estimate, but 300,000 soldiers in the North, and it's a low estimate, by the way, their lives were taken as a result of this. We had single battles where men were losing their lives at the rate of 1,000 to 7,000 a minute. Yeah. That's how fast some of these people died in some of these battles. And when you want to talk about the true cost of war, listen, for every 10 slaves, that was 1.63 Union soldiers that died. So if we really want to talk about the condition of the economy was strong in the North where there was no slavery. It was tremendously poor in the South. And most people who will be honest about economics will say that. So you can take that 1619 project. And let me also say one other thing. If we have to pay reparations for everything that happened in slavery, I think the price we paid in the Civil War alone is enough of a reparation. Okay? The bottom line is there were more people in this country during that early period, that fought for freedom than there were for those who fought for slavery. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the lies that people continue to say, this 1619 project garbage that says that the reason for the Declaration of Independence and the Revolutionary War, they say was so that we could preserve the right for slavery. I say hogwash, because England, the Brits, did not make slavery illegal in their overseas colonies until 1845 or something like that. So don't you dare tell me for a second that our Declaration of Independence was so that we can fight for the right to have slaves. Yeah. That's absolutely absurd. The abolitionist movement in the United States of America started prior to that time.
Yeah, that is just absolutely absurd. Thank you for straightening out that mess. Here's another mess. We're in California. It's not about Santa Claus, it's Gavin Claus. Ugh. James, Gavin Claus is coming to town. Listen, you better watch out. Let's see, how's it go? You better not watch out. You better not sing. You better not shout. You better hide. Gavin Claus is coming to town. I think we should do a song. Gavin Claus is coming to James' house.
Bro.
And James' church.
Oh, you know what? See, I can't. Look. I'm not going to talk about Gavin coming to my house because that's not a very nice thing for me to do. I'm just going to simply say that anybody who is an intruder that comes into my home is going to wish they never did come to my home. That's all I'm going to say. But I just want to say this. I just simply want to say, with respect to Gavin Newsom, shame on him. Shame on him. He's the ultimate hypocrite. He doesn't believe a word of what he says. He doesn't believe one word of the things that he says.
No,
not one.
He doesn't. None of them do.
No.
Did you see this one this week? The judge rules against Los Angeles County closing restaurants. They
I
said it
did
was
hear that
unsupported by
story.
any findings. It was an abuse of emergency powers. That was Politico actually reported that one. Figured out
And that was, by the way, after the judge formally asked the court to prove their position.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, listen, I want you guys that are filing against this, I want you government officials to prove that it is unsafe to be in hospitals or to be outdoors. And they actually changed their position. They said, oh, it has nothing to do with being safe outdoors. It has everything to do with if people are allowed to sit and eat outdoors and they're going to be out of their house. And that's what's dangerous. That's how they changed their story.
I'll tell you what's
liars.
dangerous is living where I live and going out on the streets at midnight, right, Gabe? Go out on the streets at midnight. You've seen it. You've seen it, James. Walk down the main boulevard where I live at midnight. That's a dangerous place. And it's not because of the Rona either.
Yeah, boy, let me tell you, man.
Hey,
lately it's that way everywhere, huh?
Yeah, it is. Hey, last thing. Okay. We're running out of time. I want to ask you this. Who's going to remain being president? Just fill me in.
President Trump. Listen, I can promise you he's going to, let me just say this.
Let me see that cup again.
90% certainty.
There you go. Oh, that's a picture.
90% certainty that our president is going to continue being the president. The big case that got filed is this case that Texas jumped into. 17 other states have now jumped into it. The amicus briefs are pouring in. This has been something, guys, can I just say this? They have been preparing for this from probably a few days before the election. This case is a massive, massive case. And it is amazing that the Supreme Court has almost instantly said, okay, we're going to hear the briefs from everybody else, which basically means I think they're getting fit to rule on this case. And by the way, if they rule on this case, let me tell you what ends up happening, and it's going to be very, very sweet. They're going to invalidate all of those cases. By the way, the premise of the case, so if in case you guys don't understand, Texas is basically saying that our voices are being drowned out as voters, as the people of Texas, when there are other states that are cheating in elections. When they're cheating in elections, it invalidates our votes, and thus our votes don't matter, which is unconstitutional. So it's a brilliant, absolutely brilliant case that they're bringing. It's never been done in the context of elections. It's been done in other things, right? The actions of this bordering state is affecting our state. We're going to take you to the Supreme Court and tell you to knock it off. But in this context,
that's cool, because I never imagined it coming, a case being filed like that.
Yeah, I did not see it coming. When I saw something coming, I didn't see this particular case coming.
I find it pretty outstanding. Hey, listen, we got to run. James, I didn't even tell everybody how to get a hold of you. I forgot.
You can follow me on Instagram. That's James Cadiz. You can follow me on YouTube at Calvary Chapel Signal Hill. That's if we're on YouTube for too much longer with the craziness. Did you hear what they said now? YouTube is now going to shut down anybody who talks about the election being fraudulent as of today.
Oh, maybe nobody will even see this video.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know.
So, we're going to have to find some other host.
We're going to figure it out. We're going to have to figure something out.
Something will come up. It will be awesome. It'll be great. So Instagram.
So Instagram, YouTube, you can get us, of course, on our Facebook. But Instagram and YouTube is the best way because we're uploading videos every single day and very much looking forward to it.
All right. Fantastic. Great. Thanks for being with me again, James. Can't wait to talk to you again soon. I know I'll be talking to you before our next program. And,
yes, sir.
You can also follow me at hopeforourtimes.com and this YouTube channel. God bless you, everybody. And remember, God is on the throne. Bye.
Amen and amen.
Amen. That was great. Thank you, sir.